Great. Okay, folks, it's a real pleasure to have among us a very distinguished gentleman from all the way from California. He has just recently become engaged with ICTIEE through another good friend, a board member of ours in California, A.G. Karunakaran. So, as are many of our really distinguished Indians in the California region, they're all entrepreneurs, and Prabhakar is no exception. And Prabhakar is one of the leading entrepreneurs in that region, and he has volunteered to do this for us. This session. So I'm going to briefly read out some information about him. So just to get you oriented, he is a chief strategist and co-founder of The Fabric. That's the name of his company. It's not a textile company, it's a networking company. He'll explain to you what it is. He has a successful track record as a serial entrepreneur. Previously, he drove Juniper, as many of you may be familiar with that, content and media strategy and technology for its media delivery infrastructure solutions, which is an outgrowth of Juniper's acquisition. Ankina came out of Juniper, which he co-founded with Rajan. Before Ankina, Prabhakar was at Citrix Systems, driving the technology vision and product strategy of the company's application networking group. Prabhakar joined Citrix via its acquisition of NetScaler Inc. And the story gets very complicated here. where he served as CTO and EVP of Strategic Planning and Corporate Development. So prior to NetScaler, Prabhakar was a senior VP of Technology at Exodus Communications. He has over 25 years of leadership experience in high-tech industry, where he has held a variety of executive positions, spanning engineering, marketing and business strategy at companies such as Intel, HP, and IBM. Served on the board of directors of several companies and is a charter member of ICTIEE, the Indus Entrepreneurs. That's very good to know that. He has a master's degree from the University of Massachusetts, the Amherst campus, and he got his bachelor's degree from IISc Bangalore. So wow, I'm really so happy, Prabhakar, that you could spare some time for us. And with that, we're going to let you start your presentation, and so we'll take, there you go. Now you can share your screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's so I had prepared this elaborate obligatory joke, but I think I will dispense with that considering the short amount of time we have. So let me share the screen. Without further ado, we will go forward. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So let me move this here. This is not moving. Okay, there you go. Okay, all right. So what I thought I would do is give you just a very quick overview of the fabric, which gives you the context for my background in entrepreneurialism. Professor Krishna walked through some of the companies that had started before the fabric. So let me kind of like quickly go through what the fabric does, so you have an idea about what we do currently. So what we do is we partner with entrepreneurs in the cloud and IoT infrastructure space, security, networking, storage, etc. And we co-found companies with them. And what we do is we work with them for like a year before there is a company, continue to figure out whether this idea has got a value, right? Not everything that we work on, we actually start a company with. There have been many situations where we have looked at an idea, worked for a while, and then said, okay, this is not going to move forward. But then if we feel that there is an idea worthwhile pursuing, there is a business need that has to be solved, that's when we form a company after like a year of working on it with the entrepreneurs. Then we become co-founders, and then we continue to work with them and then get them funded, and then continue on the board as investor and so on. So that's what we do. And we have created 12 companies so far, out of which 6 have been acquired already, and 3 are still on the deck. and 3 did not go anywhere. So fair amount of entrepreneur experience, which is where I'm coming from in terms of sharing this thoughts with you. The talk is kind of like has 3 segments, which is what I put in the abstract. One is really what I'm thinking of, what it means to train engineering students as entrepreneurs, for tech entrepreneurs. Second part is kind of like talk a little bit about some opportunities that may be of interest to the entrepreneurs in the technology field, and then open it up for questions. So when I thought about, okay, how do I talk about training tech entrepreneurs, I thought, okay, maybe I should just come at it from my perspective. It's like when I was an engineering student at IISc and UMass, what I wish I had been taught to be an entrepreneur, which I kind of like had to learn from the ground up, right? So there are a few different things, like risk tolerance, there is a vision, solving business problems and not being hung up on technology, how to be creative in problem solving, because that's one of the key things about being an entrepreneur is being creative about problem solving. And team building, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then having that customer orientation. And of course, there are other topics which I won't really get too much into. This is actually a very, very large topic, and you could probably have like a 3-year course on this topic, but we'll touch upon some of these things. And if you want to learn more about or get into details of any of this, we can do that in the Q&A session. Okay. So the first thing is risk tolerance and resiliencies, because what like you see the quote there, Dale Carnegie said, somebody who goes farthest is generally the one who is willing to do and dare. This was also, I think, in the book Outliers, I think by Malcolm, I forgot his name. So the one of the things that distinguishes successful people from people who just carry forward as just engineers or whatever managers in companies, successful entrepreneurs is people who are risk takers, right? What I have seen is that even my own career, I can see that in the early part of it is we are kind of like failure averse. We just want to take one step at a time and keep moving forward and join, like, I picked a very safe company like Intel and then HP and those kinds of things. And just continue there. Some of the people who joined with me at Intel are still there after 38 years. They're about to retire. So I think one of the things in training entrepreneurs is to say failure is okay, right? Don't worry about failure. Dust yourself off and move on, right? You can think about Abraham Lincoln. His life was just completely one failure after another. Just everything that he touched, he failed. But then he kept at it and became kind of like the greatest president of the United States. So another thing is that, especially in a hot market like India now, there's almost no premium to have a failure. You would be snapped up in no time. So it's not, finding a job is not a problem. So taking that risk is a good thing. So how do we teach people about this is, I think you would find this theme coming up over and over again, is to really have like workshop with the engineers and find case studies where people have failed but still have become successful later on. Later on, I would also mention about Edison. He said that I found 10,000 ways of not having the right bulb until I found the right one. So I think can take examples like that and teach people how to be resilient and tolerate failure and take the risk. And then the other thing is that people are kind of like close at hand. They kind of like just see the nose or hand right in front of them. They have to be able to look for, and then say what they are going to accomplish 10 years, 20 years from now, and create companies that are based on that vision. So some of the famous examples of vision are Kennedy when he said man on moon in 10 years, and Elon Musk said we're going to have the long range electric car, right, or reusable rockets. These are visionaries, right? So you can take those kind of people, Jobs and Bezos and Musk and kind of, or even Edison, and kind of like walk through what kind of vision they had and how they worked through that. And also you can take path-breaking companies like Airbnb, Uber, etc. Uber is a very famous example. Completely different way of thinking about transportation, right? And maybe another way, one is to take those existing companies. Another way may be to take some completely new large field and have people come up with visionary ideas. And this should be in brainstorming. There is no wrong answer. They should just be able to come up boldly with some ideas and try to flesh it out, right? But the thing that is important is that, going back to the topic of resiliency, vision is not enough. They need to have the passion to go after it. This is where the Edison quote comes in. He kept on going after that light bulb idea. He really said, I have not failed. I have only found 10,000 ways that don't work, until he came up with the filament that worked. So that's important to inculcate in the engineers. So one other thing that I find very interesting is that a lot of people, they take ideas that are done in research in a kind of like a vacuum in the universities, and then they say, oh, I'm just going to spin it out and make it a company. Sometimes that can succeed in a very kind of narrow way, but a lot of times very successful companies come from thinking about a business problem and then saying, I'm going to go and solve it. I'm going to build the technology that can solve it. Again, Tesla is a very good example of that. He said that we need a car, long range electric vehicle for clean. He did not come up, he did not already have the technology. He had that business problem to solve, and then he went after and built the technology to solve it. So that's very important for people to think about. In order for that to be a successful company, people have to be able to buy it. They will buy it only if it is providing them a value, right? So that value has to solve a business problem. So there are very famous example of that. Cisco Systems is a very famous example of solving the fact that the two endpoints, a company needed to be there to connect multiple computers together. LinkedIn connected people together. Shopify, basically Amazon was running away with electronic commerce. Shopify said other people will need support to be able to compete with Amazon. So they solved a business problem. So these are all very famous examples, and those examples could be walked through, and people can write case studies or papers, white papers about these kind of companies that took a business problem and solved it. And counter example could be take examples of research technologies that people tried to productize and did not go anywhere because it did not really solve a business problem. It was cool technology, but didn't solve a business problem. So this another very interesting thing is, a lot of engineers tend to be kind of like introspective, or just kind of like not introverts, I would say. So, but entrepreneurship is not a one-person effort. It is a team effort. And what people don't always have the skills to build a team, to attract people to their idea. So they need to be trained to be able to sell those ideas, to tell stories, tell the story of their idea, and inspire people to join them, and continue through the thick and thin, because there is going to be so many trials and tribulations in the life of a venture, early stage venture, that people need to be able to really stick together, almost like a family, and work together to solve those issues. So the soft skills are typically not, engineers are not trained on. So I would say one of the key things could be training people on the team building skills, leadership skills, inspiring, storytelling, presentation, those kinds of things. People, and a counter example is Steve Jobs. I mean, he was not a people's person. He was notoriously a hard person to work for, but he was able to inspire people. He was a leader, but he didn't really always show the softer side. That's a counter example. But I would not take that as the example. I would take other people who have been able to build teams, bring people with them, and inspire them. Okay. So this is the another thing is very important, is that engineers tend to think about technology and product, and not really about the people who are going to buy it and use it. And they do not always put themselves in their shoes. So entrepreneurialism, if you're going to succeed, you really need to be able to acquire customers and retain customers. I have the quote up there. The customer is not an interruption in our work. He is the very purpose of it. Do people know who said it? Right. Malcolm
Who said it?
Gladwell. I see that. Yeah. So I was floored when I first saw the answer. Somebody gave the correct answer.
What is the correct answer?
It is Gandhiji.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was just absolutely floored
Wow.
when I saw the complete quote. The complete quote is very inspirational. You should see this. And that people need to take that to heart, because ultimately you can have the best technology that doesn't succeed unless you are able to translate that to a customer value, work with the customers, get them to buy into it, get them to adopt it. And then support, there will be problems, we work through those problems with them. I can tell you from personal experience, whether it was Exodus or whether it was Netscaler or Ankina or the companies that we have built since then, have been able to succeed only because they have been very, very customer oriented. That's not something that comes naturally to engineers. So really, I think training people on the value of customer service and customer delight and customer acquisition. So some things that are very specifically oriented towards that. And maybe you can give examples of companies that have had fantastic products, but they were not very customer oriented, or people who had mediocre products and they were very customer oriented. There have been numerous examples. You can find those case studies in the business books, in the blogs, etc. I would suggest that you communicate that to the entrepreneurs. Let's see what's the next one. Here we go. Okay, there you go. Okay, so we kind of like have run through the different topics I had. I did kind of rush through it because I wanted to leave time for discussion at the end. So this kind of like comes towards the end of the first segment of the discussion here. So there are many other topics. As I mentioned, this is a very vast topic. So one of the topics is, we talked about resiliency and passion, but then there comes a point at which you are just, bashing your head against the wall. So when to detect that, and then it's called known as pivoting, where you reorient the company towards solving some adjacency. And there have been many, many examples of success like that. In my own case, Ankina was a very key example of it. When we started it, we had an idea that we were going to be selling to content producers. That didn't work out at all. So we then changed it to selling it to content distribution companies. That didn't pan out. So then we found this opportunity that it fit very, very well with telecom operators and companies with very large number of branches. And in fact, Ankina got deployed at every one of Apple's stores. If you walk into any Apple store, they use Ankina's system to deliver software updates and media and stuff like that. In 1 week, and we deployed like 300 stores for Apple. So I think that learning about what is that, it's not a cut and dry, right? It's not a hard science. There's an art to it, and there's a way to think about it. Of course, there is the financial matters, raising funds, the various stages that they're going to go through. One of the things in India, particularly, engineers may not be aware of is the model of how venture capital works, where people come in and for a certain amount of money, you give half your company, right? So people are saying, "Oh, I want to hold all of my company to myself." That doesn't work. Some companies can be bootstrapped if it's a services company. If it's a hard technology product company, that's not going to fly. You will need investment. And how does that capitalization work? They will need to know about that. They will, in order to get funding, they will need to show a business plan. They will need to train. I mentioned art of storytelling. It's not just, you will need to be able to sell your vision to the investors, to the employees, to the customers. So all of these things is very important. So that's kind of like the first part of the talk. The next topic, I'm going to quickly touch upon a few areas that people may be interested to look for opportunities. First part of it is that my own core area where I know something about is cloud and IoT infrastructure. Cybersecurity is just screaming hot. It is just absolutely unbelievable. There's incredible number of companies, incredible number of innovations going on. It's a horse race. People are trying to build defense mechanisms, and the bad guys are trying to defeat the defense mechanisms, and there's constant innovation happening there. Huge opportunities. And other one is near and dear. I think there was some discussion at the beginning of this where people were talking about the remote classes. It applies to remote work also. How do you make collaboration happen? How do you make ease of accessing any kind of resource from anywhere? Even one person, right? Not just maybe a branch, but even from one person, whether they are at home with so many other people using the network at the same time, maybe to play games or streaming video, and this person is trying to work. So how does all of that work? There is huge opportunities in storage and data in terms of data security, data science. How do you make it all efficient? Because the amount of storage that is getting generated is far higher than any time in the history. It's probably many orders of magnitude high now, especially with video coming into picture. Everybody has got one of these, and these things have cameras, and people are just shooting so many videos and sharing them and uploading them and saving them, and it's just absolutely unbelievable. And the Internet of Things, where everything is getting connected. Think about a car, how much data that it generates that potentially could be used to optimize how the car operates and self-driving and all of those kinds of things. Then, of course, how to manage all of these things. That's the orchestration topic. We touched upon Internet of Everything. One other huge trend is driving enterprise business processes. Everything that enterprise used to do manually, now people are automating using artificial intelligence. An example is conversational AI, where customer service, everything used to be phone call, and then came online chat. Now it is chat bot, but think about the chat bot, being replaced by a true, almost human-like conversational AI, and that is starting to happen. And there's a lot of opportunity there. One other thing that you might have heard of, which I'll touch upon again, is at the heart of all of this cryptocurrencies is a structure called blockchain. Blockchain is a way where it's called a shared distributed ledger. It's a little bit technical. You can look it up later. The idea is that there must be a way for people to independently add transactions and verify them without having a centralized controller. That has the potential to revolutionize many businesses. For instance, today, if you have to buy or sell a home in United States, you go through something called title company. That's a centralized way of doing that. And it's a hugely expensive, very slow process that can be completely done away with, where if the buyers and sellers and brokers can all collaborate using this distributed ledger. And people are starting to work on that. Another is money transfer. There are these companies like Swift, etc., which charge huge amount of money to fees to transfer international money transfers. They can all be done within like seconds using these blockchain-enabled processes. That is starting to happen. There's a lot of opportunities in these kind of spaces, but admittedly, these are a little boring, right? So what's kind of more exciting, right? Obviously, crypto, anything, Bitcoin, and you might have heard of NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens, which is a way of digitally creating a piece of work that's authentic. Like, for instance, the first ever tweet that was put on Twitter was turned into an NFT thing. And there are so many things like that. People are doing that. There's a lot of innovation opportunities there. Mostly, I don't understand any of that. I'm a nuts and bolts kind of guy, but there's very exciting. A lot of interesting things are happening. Energy generation storage is just huge. Fundamentally, most problems that we have are related to energy, including climate change, right? So if all these advances in solar cells and different kinds of nuclear plants and wave energy and fusion and and battery storage technologies, incredible amount of innovation is going on. I just read recently that some third party has come up with a the battery pack for Tesla that can make a Tesla Model S go for 750 miles. That's like more like 1100 kilometers on a single charge. That's going to fundamentally completely change the equation. You can just completely forget about range anxiety, saying when you have to charge, etc. Those kinds of things will be huge opportunities in India to do those kinds of things. Self-driving vehicles, I don't have to mention. A lot of innovations and a lot of things are happening, and it's still a very long way to go. So I think it's a great opportunity. Robotics, obviously, great things are happening. You see this, there are some scenarios where, in fact, some car manufacturing plants, if you go, you might be shocked. Like there's almost no people there. It's all just done by robots. There are a handful of people who are doing this whole car manufacturing, and people are doing physician control, but still robot-based surgeries. And there's just so many things that are happening in that field. I feel that can be quite a bit of a revolution there. Interestingly, if you think about that, in Japan, the society is aging very rapidly. Amazingly enough, even China is on that track, and Europe, of course, is almost already there. And some of these societies are insular, and they don't have immigration integral into their economy, unlike the United States. So what happens is that they need a way to care for these aging parents and people like that. So robotics becomes very, very important in those kind of societies. So almost like human-like robots are being built. So that's a very exciting field. You might have heard about 3D printing. You might not think about some of the things as 3D printers. You might think of a small thing on your desk as a printer and maybe printing small things. No, people are building even houses, printing houses. They are printing components of the houses and assembling them together. So this obviously is going to revolutionize so many different fields, because it's going to democratize the ability to make things. You may not need factories anymore. So I think those kinds of things are very interesting, and that combined with genetic engineering. In fact, those two are cross-fertilizing, where people are printing all kinds of things, even in the bio field, and especially with technologies like CRISPR and mRNA. Some revolutionary innovations are taking place. And I think India particularly can play a big part with advanced institutions like IISc and other places. And of course, nanotechnology underlies a lot of these other things. And that's also a very interesting field, somewhat overhyped. It came and went, but I think the value is real and a lot of opportunities are real. One thing that I will leave you with is that somebody mentioned this, that we always overpromise about what is going to happen in 5 years, and we cannot visualize how much things are going to change in 10 years. And these fields are all like that. They do not evolve that rapidly, but when they do, it is just huge. So with that, I'll kind of like stop and turn it over to back to Professor Krishna, and then
wow.
Q&A.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhakar, for such a fascinating presentation, presented in a nice, simple way for everybody to understand. Amazing. We have a few very interesting comments, and even though we run over time, I'll take time to address some of these comments that have come from some of our people in the audience.
Yes.
One was one is this failure mindset, failure averse mindset in India.
Right.
The question is this failure due to societal norms like family honor mindset, something like that?
It's true. Actually, it'll be funny that when we opened an office for Netscaler in Bangalore, the parents would come and interview us, saying that, why should my son come and work for you when he's getting a job at Intel or IBM? So people, that is a society thing, but it's changing. It is changing with the success of companies like Flipkart and Ola and all of that. People are seeing that big successes can be made, and people are also joining mature startups like Netscaler or other companies, and they are becoming successful as employees of those. So I think those mindset is changing.
Yeah, I think that a similar question is a failure averse mindset is preached to everyone from the schools itself. So we have to take responsibility and make sure that upcoming generation of people get free from this mindset. So good comments there. Also another comment is deep rooted in parenting and radiates large everywhere else, because for previous generations, survival was dependent on winning and survival. So I guess it's a cultural comment.
Yes.
Roots.
What I would say is definitely things are changing in India, especially in places like Bombay and Mumbai and Bangalore, and then that will spread.
Okay, well, another comment about for innovations to happen, acceptance of failure is required, opportunities to explore and experiment need to be provided. So I think the Bhikha Tulsi agreeing with you on that very vehemently. Sridhara, who's the Vice Chancellor of the university, says to motivate students towards entrepreneurship, the institutional campuses must have facility to incubate startups and must have mentors from industry. You have thoughts on that?
That's a good point. Yeah. I think people, IISc, for instance, has definitely taken a big step in that direction. They have incubation centers, and they bring people and have specific projects that are incubated etc. And I think that should be replicated in other schools.
Can Prabhakar, can we just off here? Can maybe now that we've connected so nicely together, can we maybe in the next year or so steal a little of your time to talk with some of our potential entrepreneurs, youngsters in our colleges who are coming with really good ideas. We don't want to overburden you, but once in a way, hey, Prabhakar, can you have a meeting with a couple of these youngsters? Is that something that we can tap you in for?
Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah.
Is that okay? Great. Don't want to put you on a spot there, but I think that somebody like you having a conversation with potential entrepreneurs in our group will really be exciting for them. It's really, okay.
Yes. Thank you.
That's Sampada there. Sampada is our leader in building entrepreneurship among our students, and in 50 colleges. In fact, she was working with the Vadvani Foundation Group and just getting that started off, and she's leading that effort. So we hope to in a few months have some teams of students with some really exciting ideas that they would like to take to the next level. So so Sampada was sitting there, and while you were talking, she was salivating. You said, I hope Krishna asked him this question and maybe gets him into our
let's touch base about it and see how best to do that.
Yeah, networks. It's part of the fabric, right? You will be an important part of our fabric.
Right.
That's right. Very well said, Krishna.
Fabric,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about this from AGK, I thought, what a great idea. I definitely want to participate. Yeah, let's work on
and the best part is we're working with about 50 colleges, and many of them are really active, and many kids are really doing a good job. You have your hand up for some reason, Sampada. Did you want to add anything there?
No, I was clapping because you read
you're
my
clapping.
mind
Okay.
and you relate my message. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And a couple of quick questions, and then we'll. Okay, Deepak, would it be possible for entrepreneurial visionaries like you to visualize without the support of fundamental research pointing to futuristic trends?
Well, yes and no. I think that some of the ideas are definitely need fundamental research. AI definitely has progressed because of fundamental research. But some of the things are more engineering than AI. Kubernetes, for instance, is not fundamental research. It was just born out of necessity. Cloud computing that the Amazon has pioneered, AWS, not fundamental research, just practice. So I think it's yin and yang. I think they for some things you need that, for some things it's practice.
Great. And finally, just one final comment here. I think again reinforces how to overcome failure aversion. Karthik says is we have to focus more on projects and project-based assessment, because when you do projects, you tend to fail a lot, and that's probably why we have to do that in all the courses in engineering, is to give them projects and let people see that failure happens.
The grading may have to change. Grading
absolutely. Yes,
not necessarily on the success or failure of the project, but how well it was attempted.
Yeah, sure, that's absolutely true. I mean, even a failed project can get an A. I think that should be the way to look at it, because otherwise students are afraid to fail because they'll get a poor grade if they fail, and so they want to try to somehow figure out fudge it and make it look like they succeeded. And final question: whether technology drives business or business drives technology. Which is your opinion as a strategist?
My opinion, I am biased. My opinion is that business should drive technology, because I believe smart people will be able to figure out what the technology is to solve the problem. If you look at SpaceX or Tesla, I will hold up as an example. It started with the problem that needed to be solved, and they found the technology that will solve it. There are many examples of the integrated circuits, etc., etc. But then other way happens. So as I said, AI, it's not necessarily a specific business problem. AI started out as a pure academic research and then morphed into applied research. So in some cases, I think definitely technology drives the business. But I think in the world of startups, entrepreneurs, mostly it's business that drives the technology.
Great. On that note, Prabhakar, thank you so much. I think we have 135 people here with us, and some of them have asked, many of them have asked some wonderful questions. Welcome to the IUC community, and this will not be the last time that you will see us together. Okay, thank you very much. And here's a good round of applause, a little celebration with your name on it, picture on it. So thank you.
Thank
Prabhakar.
you. That's
Okay,
nice.
Take care. Good night.
That's nice.
Night to
Thank
you.
you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, some